And welcome back to me channel, unless you are new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is me channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And we are going to continue on this little set of spotlights that I wanted to dive deeper into. These next five were on my top list in various places, and I either had not done a spotlight on them, or I wanted to, which I'm doing now. And anyway, this next one is going to be The Long Walk from the Stephen King book. The Long Walk was, of course, released in 2025. It was directed by Francis Lawrence. It's written by J.T. Mollner and Stephen King. So I guess J.T. adapted it. And it stars Cooper Hoffman, David Jonsson, and Garrett Wareing, and of course Mark Hamill. Now, I was just mesmerized by this movie. I think it is a very interesting premise and a very interesting take on Battle Royale. Now, as everybody knows, and if not, you will now, I am one of those, just like I was with Buffy in the last one. I am a Hunger Games fanboy freak. I can also repeat every damn word of dialogue in every movie of that as well. But before I was a fanboy of Hunger Games, I was a fanboy of Battle Royale, the original Japanese movie that solidified that genre. And I pretty much grabbed anything like that that has come out since. I have a lot of Battle Royale movies, in different setups and in different ways. House of Nine is one that I love. Human Race, which reminds me of this, is another one that I love, The Human Race. Belko Experiment. I love Battle Royale movies. This is a very interesting take on it in that it's sort of like the Hunger Games in spirit, but they're not against each other physically. They're against each other endurance-wise, right? So you have these, every state, of course it's a dystopic future, just like Hunger Games and many other Battle Royales are. It's a dystopic future in which you are promised riches, again, like the Hunger Games. You are promised riches if you win. And of course, that takes advantage of the poor population, rich versus poor, as usual. And so every state puts forth a winner, if you could call it that, puts forth a winner that gets to compete in this competition, where at the end you get riches and fame and infamy, which is actually just the carrot in front of the donkeys, which we all are. And that's the way corporate America works, and any other corptocracy, oligarchy, and that's the way that it all works, is keep them in line and keep them, but you have to, didn't President Snow say, you have to keep them a little hope, but hope is dangerous, and I of course think that them choosing Mark Hamill, both from his political beliefs and who he is, making him be the President Snow character of this movie was a stroke of genius, and I'm really glad that he did it, because it certainly makes a statement. So in this movie, our main ones are Raymond and Peter and Hank and Arthur. They're our main ones, and then you have the others that kind of are more prominent, like Gary, who was the long-haired asshole guy that you just kind of wanted to die, and Adam was the other guy that I felt really sorry for. And this movie is hard to watch. You know, I mean, I saw a lot of people talking about that. Well, this is probably something that they don't realize on a psychological level. The reason that this movie is hard for a lot of people to watch, because they don't say they don't like it, they just say it made them cry, it really depressed them, it was really horrible, made them have horrible after feelings of doom and gloom, and that it's not a very bright and happy movie. No, it's not. And the reason that it's not a very bright and happy movie, and the reason that you feel that way, is because of the same reason that Schindler's List is very hard to watch. 1984 is very hard to watch. Anything that comes a little too close to possibility is going to add an extra layer underneath it that you may not even know is there. That's why if you look at the tags of this movie, it's horror, thriller, teen horror, survival, psychological thriller, psychological horror. And that's the reason why. It's just, you know, if you've ever went through the traumatic experience of watching Sophie's Choice with Meryl Streep, or Liam Neeson in Schindler's List, or anything that comes a little too close to possibility. It's the reason the Hunger Games are so popular is because there is a lot of people in power who would like The Handmaid's Tale and The Hunger Games and The Long Walk and George Orwell's 1984 and Christian Bale's movie Equilibrium. Didn't I call it? Yeah, Equilibrium? Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of people, real people, in real control with real power who would love to see those things, who would be perfectly fine with seeing those situations and scenarios actually exist. And you know it, and that's why a movie like this is so hard to watch. It's why Schindler's List and Sophie's Choice and all that kind of stuff that rips you to shreds, it's why they're hard to watch. Because either it has happened or it will happen. You know, what is the main motto of the Cylons? This has all happened before and it will happen again. So movies like this are very difficult to watch because in the back of your mind, even if you're not paying attention to it, it's like going, yeah, that's kind of like dark. It's depressing to think about because I know. But see, what your mind, the thought that you don't allow to be finished after your mind says that, you say, gosh, that's very dark. It's very depressing. It's very gloomy. It's my gosh. You know, the part that you leave out, that you don't allow your mind to finish saying is because there are people that would really do this if they could. If we would just let them, if we would just vote them in, if we would just let them get away with it, this could be real. Something along these lines could be real. And that's where these kind of movies hurt and throw a dark edge. That's why it's called psychological horror, because that fucks with your head. So I really loved this movie. I really loved the characters. As the movie progressed and you saw the dingbats, like that boy that was the one that was shot because of his foot being broke, that was horrific. You know, oh, I'm here to do a story. You know, it's like, what? You obviously didn't pay attention to the rules. You're going to make it through this and do a story when you look like you can barely walk around the block 3 times. But okay, all right. But there's that kind of naivete. You got to keep the population stupid as well. That's a big part of that kind of control, right? So him getting killed was bad. You can't talk about this movie without talking about the diarrhea scene. That was entirely uncalled for. I remember when I sat down and watched this for the first time, when that started happening, and then boys were talking about it, and then the camera panned, I was like, no, you're not. Are you? You're not going to do that, are you? You just did that, didn't you? Wow. Okay. That was entirely uncalled for, but in all honesty, it was very much called for because that's part of the horror. Because it's the truth, and you don't want to see the truth. And that is the truth. And the truth was disgusting. And as they walked, and here's another interesting thing about this movie to me. Of course, after you see this movie, you have questions. That's a good movie for you. It gives you questions. And I actually was like, can humans do this? Because as the movie went across, it's day 1 and day 2 and day 3 and day 4 and day 5, and it's we've done 280 miles now and 300. So I immediately went to one of them, GPT probably, and I was like, the movie The Long Walk. Can a human really do that? Can you really sleep while you walk? I don't mean sleepwalk. I mean, can you really take a rest while still walking? Can a human being actually do that? Can humans actually walk for 5 days nonstop at 3+ miles an hour and not fall below 3 miles an hour? Well, if you time the 15-second rest correctly, you can. But it turns out that you can. A well-fit human. The premise of this movie is not fiction. Humans are capable of walking for 300 miles nonstop. Not very many of them, but it is within human capability, and I didn't know that. So that added an extra layer of, well, you can't call it a fake premise. The premise is actually real. A human can walk that long and that far. And humans can power nap. I just don't see how they keep their legs moving while they power nap. But all of these kinds of things are real. But it's all these little questions that this movie brought up. It's like, well, how do you pee? Peeing while you walk has got to be... I don't think I've ever done that. And then, they're eating and they're drinking. So you're going to have to pee and you're going to have to crap. But you can't stop. So I'm like, I've never really thought about crapping on the go. And I actually agree with them boys that were like screaming at him. It's like, who cares? Just don't stop and pull your pants down. Just let it flow right down the legs. It's not like you're winning a beauty pageant out here or going on speed dating or anything. There's no reason. And so, but I felt horrible for him. But, all of these little conflicting questions and thoughts come into your mind, and I think they did a really good job of doing that. Mark Hamill played the Major very low-key, but at the same time he was like low-key evil. And you could just tell how much they didn't care. And you also saw the relationship develop between the main ones. And how do you make friends with a bunch of people around you that you're going to have to watch get shot sooner or later? The twist ending, I did not. I thought that Raymond would win, right? Because that's the way it was set up. You kind of just thought that all along, that Raymond was going to win. And the movie is a little bit different than the book. But then when he sat down and sacrificed himself to do that, I was very shocked at the end of this movie. But I was also extremely happy that, who was it, Peter? That his love for Raymond that he had developed along the way, that he did him justice, and that he shot that major full of shit. Filled him full of holes. And a lot of people are like, well, the ending is ambiguous. You don't know what happened. And that is true. But that's kind of good sometimes, because you can pick your own ending, and then you can sit and evaluate whether you think that your ending is possible, likely, unlikely. Was Peter shot immediately by the other guards? I don't think so, because they were used to following orders, right? This is live on TV, although you never got to see it from the Hunger Games perspective of people watching it. You got to see them come outside, and you were told that this was watched by everyone. If the goal of this travesty is to keep the population under control, they can't really kill the winner, no matter what he did. And I don't think that the big bosses would allow that to be done, because it defeats the purpose. In other words, in the end, the major was no more important to the goal of keeping the people under control and keeping this thing alive. He is just a pawn as well. He is no more important to the big boys. He is no more important to the leaders than all of these cannon fodder boys that were walking this road. So I do not believe that they would have shot him for that very reason. They would have had to have been given orders. I don't think any of those soldiers would have took it upon themselves, surrounded by all the fans who were greeting the winner. He asked for a gun. The major said give it to him. He filled him full of holes. Okay, well, those soldiers are disciplined. Those soldiers are not going to fire without being told to do so. They are going to look around for instruction. What do I do? He just shot the major. Are we supposed to kill him now? No, don't do that. I mean, you're supposed to be granted your wish. Obviously, his wish was give me a gun and kill the major. So we can't let the people not see the winner get his wish, right? So I don't believe that they shot Peter. I believe that he was begrudgingly, like the Hunger Games, like Katniss, he was begrudgingly allowed to win and go on, receive the prize, and then do with the prize what he told Raymond he was going to do with it. And there were a lot of crazy scenes in this movie. The asshole Gary boy, the long-haired guy that caused such trauma, when he stabbed himself and stuff, that was pretty shocking. There was a lot of blood and gore in this movie, and I really felt sorry for that Adam guy who was so, to be defeated by his allergies. He reminded me, but in a good way, he reminded me of what, Kato was so disciplined in the Hunger Games. Kato was so disciplined, and he was so gung-ho that his death was very sad. Despite the fact that you wanted him dead, 100 times dead, it was still, you saw the betrayal in his mind. This is what he was. This was all he was. That boy Adam, he had trained and was so certain of his ability to then be defeated by his fucking allergies was just life unzipping and pissing right in your face. And I felt for him. Because, didn't he say that a couple times? He's like, I can't believe that, I'm going to be defeated not by my lack of ability to walk or my lack of endurance or because I wasn't trained for this, but because I've got fucking allergies and I'm walking through cows. I'm like, yes, there you go. That's some rusty luck right there. You know what I'm saying? That's. I mean, if you were trained and had the endurance to win this race, are you a person that life would not shaft you? Or are you like me and life would go, well, that's all right, but you forgot. I'm not going to let you have any luck. So yes, you could have won. Yes, you have the endurance, but you forgot. We're up here and I'm going to have this crop dusting plane accidentally fly right into your ass on the road just to make sure that you remember your place in the scheme of things. And that's what I felt about Adam was like, yeah, I get it. Poor boy. So I absolutely adored this movie. I gave it a 9 out of 10 and upon rewatch, it'll probably go on up to be one of those 10 out of 10 in my little masterpiece folder on International Movie Database. But it is one of the best adaptations of Stephen King that I've ever seen. It's definitely up there with Dolores Claiborne and Misery and the ones that are considered like the cream of the crop. The Long Walk is that to me. I did go and read the book after seeing the movie, and there were some differences, but I think they did a really good job, and I think they changed a little bit to make a point, and I like the changes that they made. Or the changes was okay. The book is fine. The movie's fine. It's just a different interpretation of the situation. So I really love The Long Walk. I wanted to shout out some love to it. It is a fantastic, fantastic movie, and I am very, very overjoyed that it exists and that I have it forever. Mine. It's mine. Mine. It's all mine. Thank you. I will see you in the next one. Love you, miss you, goodbye. Always remember and never forget you're a very, very special person no matter what anybody says to you, and don't let anyone tell you any different. Bye-bye.